Hello bears, it's been another lovely day. I don't know how many of you saw my video that I put on Facebook earlier about planting some seeds. They haven't started growing yet, it's a bit too soon, but I thought I would read a story that we've already had in school but which we all enjoyed, called Scarlette Beane, all about the little girl who's amazing at growing things. So this is Scarlette Beane by Karen Wallace, illustrated by John Barclay and published by the Oxford University Press. Are you sitting comfortably? Snuggle down and enjoy tonight's story. Scarlette Beane. When Mrs. Beane first saw her daughter's face, it was red as a beetroot and the ends of her fingers were green. "I shall call her Scarlette," declared Mrs. Beane. "She will grow up tall and strong and do something wonderful." Mr. and Mrs. Beane lived in a house that looked like a garden shed. It was cosy and made of wood, but it was very small, so they worked outside as much as they could. Scarlette lay in her pram and listened to the flowers grow, and when she slept she dreamed of doing something wonderful. On her 5th birthday, Grandpa Beane gave Scarlette a vegetable garden. Her mother gave her a set of tools with wooden handles. Her father built a wooden fence to keep out the rabbits, and he made a white gate Scarlette could open herself. Scarlette loved her new garden. She pulled up the weeds. She dug the soil until it was crumbly like chocolate cake. She planted a row of carrots, a row of onions, and a row of parsley. That night, when she went to bed, the ends of her fingers glowed like green lights. The next morning, Scarlette ran to her garden. Her carrots were huge as tree trunks. Her onions were as big as hot air balloons. Her parsley was as thick as a jungle. Everyone in the village came to help. They used bulldozers to dig the carrots, they drove forklift trucks to carry the onions, they cut the parsley with chainsaws. Mrs. Beane's kitchen was too small for so many vegetables, so she made soup in a concrete mixer. The house was too small for so many people. So Mr. Beane served the soup in the garden. Everyone said it was the best soup ever. And when it began to rain, they ate second helpings under the table. That night, Scarlette Beane dreamed of something wonderful. She crept out of bed. In one hand she held a small trowel. In the other she had lots and lots of seeds. High above the meadow, the moon hung like a pearl in the sky. Scarlette dug a hole and put all the seeds at the bottom. As she covered them with earth, the ends of her fingers flashed like green stars. The next morning the sun rose like a huge gold coin. In the middle of the meadow was a castle made of vegetables. It had turnip turrets and a drawbridge held up by corn cobs. A cucumber tower stood at each corner. Mr. Beane couldn't believe his eyes. It was the house of all his dreams. Mrs. Beane kissed her daughter's face. "I knew you'd do something wonderful," she whispered. Scarlette Beane was so happy she went red as a beetroot, and the ends of her fingers sparkled like fireworks. And there they are, moving all their belongings out of their little tiny shed house into their great big vegetable palace. I don't know if you can see there. Let me get it a bit closer. There you go. You can see there's the turnip turrets and the cucumber towers and the corn on the cob holding up the drawbridge. And there's the picture of all the beautiful vegetables that Scarlette grew. Do you remember when we made vegetable soup and we all decided which vegetables we liked best? That was really delicious, wasn't it? I hope you enjoyed that story. I am going to be reading stories on Saturday and Sunday night, so you don't miss out. I hope my growing goes as well as Scarlette Beane's did. Good night, bears. See you tomorrow.